Everybody, this is Dream, and this is going to be the breakdown top picks of the Xfinity race at Kansas this weekend. So I broke down the truck race earlier, and so now I'm going to do the Xfinity race. Now, I'm kind of surprised that so many Xfinity drivers are not good at this track. I mean, I think that there's just a lot of wrecks that happen in this series at this type of track, and so it was hard to find a ton of really good options. But alas, I was able to find them. Obviously, the cutoff point here is 83.33, so we need some guys above that and some guys below. And I found my top picks. I've got 5 guys above that line and 5 guys below that line. And so I've got a little information about each one of them. So the top guy is Ty Gibbs. He's only had one start here, which is a little bit risky. He started 10th and he won the race. He's been doing really well in this series, so I suspect that he's going to continue to do well. He's definitely going to be getting more advantage the farther back in the race he starts, because of the way the scoring works in NASCAR. You get lots of extra points for starting farther back and moving up during the race. And so you definitely want the fast cars in your lineup from that perspective, but you also want them to start as far back as possible. Another guy I like is AJ Allmendinger. He has run Kansas in a lot of races in the Cup Series, and only once in the Xfinity race, but he's had a 50-point day in that one. And then he's had a bunch of good Cup finishes too, and only 2 really bad ones. And so running as many races as he has at Kansas, he's always done well. He's just a driver that really knows how to run this track, and his car is also fast in Xfinity, so we can expect that he's going to have a big race. And pretty much these 2 guys, I wouldn't care where they start, really, to try to get them in the lineup, however you can. The next guy that I like is Austin Hill. Now, obviously, he's never finished outside the top 6 in 2 Xfinity races, and he's run a bunch of truck races here too, and he's done really well. So I suspect that he's going to have a good showing here, simply because he's really good at this particular track. He's had a couple of rough races recently, but again, he does really good at this track, and so I definitely like him in this one. And I don't really care where he starts either. I definitely like him to start a little bit farther back, but it doesn't matter too much with him. And then Brandon Jones for Joe Gibbs Racing, $9,500. He hasn't had a single bad finish at this track, but we would like him to start outside the top 10 if possible, simply because he has more upside there. Otherwise, his points get capped to about 40 or so, unless he can win it. But he's not a big guy. He's not super high up on the chance to win the race board, so I don't expect him to really win the race, but he can definitely move up and get that top 10 finish. And then finally, the last guy above this Mendoza line is Landon Castle for $8,400. If he starts near the back of the pack, then he has over 40-point upside. He's had some really good races here, and so I really think he's in a good position, and his price is pretty good. Colleague Racing looks really good at this track, so hopefully that they do well. So then to get below the 8,300 line, I have Ryan Sieg at $8,000. He has big upside here, especially if he starts near the back or even anywhere, really. He has been really good in all 3 Xfinity races and truck races here, all having top 5 finishes. And he doesn't typically qualify very well. I mean, he's had some top 11, 12, 15, various 9, 12, 9, 10, 8. He's had some good qualifying efforts, but he's never been super good at that. And he's definitely got more upside, just like maneuvering through the field in this particular race. I suspect that he'll have a pretty good finish and will be somebody that you want to roster. I would definitely limit rostering him if he ends up qualifying in the top 10, but I still think he's somebody you have to take a look at. Then the next guy that I'm taking a look at is Brandon Brown. If he starts outside the top 20, then he's a good play to get a 35 to 40 point potential. If he starts inside, obviously that caps him some. But you want guys like him who have tendency to finish at this track. And then, so then our next guy is somebody that fits that bill as well, Jeremy Clements. Now, I don't feel like he's usable unless he starts outside the top 20. But he also doesn't ever really crash here. He's done quite a few races here and never had a crash out, so I really like him as an option. And then to get into some super cheap guys to help you pay up for those expensive guys that you might want is Bailey Curry. If he starts in the rear of this track, then he has some pretty substantial upside. He does need to start near the back, though, for that to really pay off. But you could definitely like mix him in with, if you liked one of these dudes at the top of the list, that you could potentially use him as a cheap option to help pay you off. And then another guy, the last guy here is Brendan Poole. Now he literally needs to start in the last like 5 positions. But he's been really good at this track, and he'll have 30-point upside if you can get him far enough back. Now he hasn't really had that kind of upside at any race this season that he's been in. He hasn't been in very many, but he's been good at this track in the past, and so I look for him as a potential option. He's definitely a Hail Mary option, but he's definitely there. It was really hard to find a lot of good value down here because most of these guys either they haven't really run at this track much, or they don't have. Or they've ran here and just wrecked out. And it seems like it's a pretty tough track to run, actually. So, overall, though, I think it's a pretty solid slate. Obviously, you got to wait for qualifying. It sucks that I can't really make this video after qualifying happens because of how soon after it is. But overall, I think it's going to be a good race. It'll probably be a lot of cautions and stuff, so you're going to have to deal with that. But if we pick guys that have the potential to, like, stay on the track and not get caught up in the wrecks, people who don't wreck typically, then that's a bigger advantage. You say, okay, well, what was the thinking about like not having Noah Gragson and stuff in the lineup? It's just the fact that and even Al Geyer and stuff, it's just the fact that they don't really perform at this track as well. They don't often meet the expectations for the price at this particular track. And like there was, I think Sam Mayer, he had a couple really good races here, but he also had like 3 or 4 races where he just was absolutely garbage. And so I didn't want to, you want guys that are going to be consistent at places and give themselves, a shot to have a really good race. So that's why I kind of, how I picked through these guys and try to give you the best options when it comes to the consistency and stuff like that. And guys that are good at, just running the track in general. Because, if you just run around off the track, then there's no point in rostering you because you're just not very good. Like Ross Chastain. In the Xfinity Series this season, he has just been awful, except for one race. He's not getting any points for maneuvering up, and his finishes aren't even that good. It's not that he's not a bad driver, but he just takes more risks in the Xfinity tracks, and so he's a risky aspect. So as for that, I will be doing a Cup race breakdown. Thankfully, the qualifying for Cup is Saturday, so we'll be able to get that qualified out, and then we won't have to worry about where people are starting ahead of time for the breakdown, and that'll make it a little bit better, obviously. But overall, I think we're going to have some really good races this weekend, so if you have any comments or questions, or if there's any driver that you think I missed that you think is going to be good, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and have a nice day, guys.